Aspies, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Asper Studios. I'm Reed Miles, and today I'm joined with Nicola from Malta, and we're going to talk about dating and sex counseling in relationship wise. So, welcome to the show, Nicola.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
So, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So, as you said, I'm from Malta. I graduated in psychology a couple of years ago, and I'm currently training to become a psychotherapist. I've been working in the field of sexual health for the last 6 years, and for the last 4 years, I've been running a dating program called Dating 101 under Willingness, which is a multidisciplinary team of professionals that offers services related to family, sex, and health. And this year we launched a sex clinic, which is a specialized clinic for sexual health and and relationship and dating um, issues and services. And one of those programs that is run under the psychosexual education segment is dating on the spectrum. So we are working with different persons that are on the ASD spectrum, basically, to support them with dating.
All right. Can you tell me a little bit about your clinic and how you handle those who are on the spectrum?
Yes, so as a clinic, we are a multidisciplinary team. So there are different services that are offered. When it comes to the diagnosis of autism, we have a an educational psychologist that conducts assessments both for children and for adults. So that's one area where we support persons on the spectrum. When it comes to dating and relationships, this is tackled either with the sex therapist or psychosexual education, which is something that I take care of. And we support depending on whatever kind of is necessary. So when it comes to diagnosis or support of parents and families, we offer services such as family therapy, parent coaching, and different support when it comes to anything from issues at school to issues with behavior to issues with body language, anything of the sort, all the way to relationships.
That's very interesting. I mean, so you really help out the autistic community with understanding everything from how to read a person, how to communicate, and what is your
Yeah, very
success?
much so.
And what is your success rate with that? I mean, do you see positive results coming from that?
There are definitely positive results. When it comes to the Dating 101 program itself, it's something relatively new. So I'm currently working with a number of different clients that are consistently making improvements when it comes to their, how do you say, I guess, dating intelligence. Um, uh, but of course, when it comes to success in terms of statistics and all of that, that's not something I can kind of give an estimate, but there is definite progress. When it comes to supporting families, this is something we've been doing for a longer number of years. So there we can estimate success a bit better. Since we are a multidisciplinary team, the way that we work is that um, as a clinic, we have about 12, 15 professionals that are coming from the psychotherapeutic background. And we meet twice per month to discuss different cases and we support each other from the perspectives of the different professions. So let's say the family therapist is presenting a case of a family where one of the members has been diagnosed with autism. So we need to see how best we can support them so that we can adapt to anything that needs adapting. And there'll be the parent coach that can give support with that, the career coach that can give support with that. So it makes for a more holistic approach. So this, of course, means that the family can have better access to different resources because they don't need to go to 5 different places. It's one place where you can get everything that you need. When it comes to dating, mostly I've been working with individuals, males mostly, and the main issues presented were, getting prepared for a first date or how to continue dating once you've been on the first date. So we are working on these different scenarios so that whether it is with the current partner or a future partner, the person is better equipped and better, I guess, informed on what best to do in these situations.
Very interesting. What issues have you seen coming from those on the spectrum coming to you for help with, like communications, like with a dating wise? What kind of problems arise?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, as we know, persons that are on the autism spectrum generally, I mean, everybody's different, but there are issues with, for example, understanding body language. So this is one of the main things that we work on, understanding nonverbal cues and verbal cues and how to respond to them. Because this is, of course, a very important part of understanding whether you're connecting with someone, whether this person has interests that you are also interested in and that you can connect with. So body language is one of the first things that we generally work on. Other issues that are generally presented are conversational issues. So how do I keep a conversation going without it becoming an interrogation because I'm asking too many questions? Or how do I keep a conversation going by realizing whether the topic is interesting or not, or to learn more about the person? So in this situation, we role model different conversations and how to respond to different scenarios. And I discuss things such as the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions, because when you have closed-ended questions, it's more difficult then to flow on with the same conversation. So they would present open-ended questions. With persons that are more experienced with dating and relationships, I've also had questions, or I've been supporting clients when it comes to sexual health. So anything from protection, what you need to know about having sex, any different questions that come about anatomy and anything like that. And then other issues that have also been presented are things such as, where do I actually go on a date, or how do I go about planning a date, or
Mm-hmm.
realizing kind of where to start off in the dating world. Do I start off online, or do I go ahead and meet a person face to face and then see how that goes? Of course, it's different for everybody, and it's something very, very individual and very personal. So there's a lot of work that goes into seeing, you know, what uh, understanding what you need and what you like, so that you can start to see what person fits best. So a lot of the work is, first of all, seeing what the person needs and wants, and then learning how to align that with somebody else.
All right. And that just brings me to my next question, which is, how do you approach a client on the spectrum when it comes to talking about sex? Because I know in the autistic community, where a majority of them are very introverted and very afraid to talk, because I think a lot of them think it's taboo just to even talk about it.
Yes, well, definitely. Well, I guess I would approach it the same way that I approach it with a neurotypical person, in the sense that if I focus on whatever the goal is. So if the goal of the client is to go on a date, we will stick with that. And then we will move step by step. With the clients that I've worked with when it comes to sexual health, normally it's because they approached with the topic that themselves. So this was what they wanted support on. What has really helped us in Malta is that, as Willingness, we do have a TikTok platform where we post 60-second sex education videos about a variety of topics. So this has made it easier for persons, for anybody really, but also persons on the spectrum, to know that we are, comfortable to talk about this topic. So that makes it easier for people to approach us. We also give sex education in schools, in different schools across Malta and Goza, our sister island, which is where we meet a lot of youth, anywhere from early teens to late teens and young adults. So there we also already have a relationship with these individuals, because we'd have met them in different sex education classes along the years. So in this way, it becomes a bit easier than to approach a subject, because we've already established a context where it's completely safe to ask questions, where we are experienced in answering any kind of question. There's no question that's off limit. So that makes it a bit easier to discuss it.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're using TikTok. That shows you're using more modern technology to help talk to the teens out there, because it's the platform they're familiar with.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, that's very brilliant to do. I mean, not many people would think about using TikTok. They would have thought maybe Instagram or even have a Facebook group. But TikTok, I mean, it's been around a while, but it's getting its is getting its just dues now.
Yes. And I mean, the response has been fantastic because, especially in Malta, we are a very tiny island. Our background is very religious and conservative. And things have changed, but of course, there's still, as with any kind of taboo topic, it's something that needs always more progress. But
Mm-hmm.
we are at the stage where it's becoming, how would you say, more important even for parents and for teachers to be aware of the topic. So this is the way that we approach sex, that we don't just talk to the youth and to the children, but we also talk to the parents and to the teachers. And this way it's a community-based approach towards the topic. So then, as you said, when we're targeting different platforms such as TikTok, we are then able to access individuals that maybe aren't comfortable to ask questions to your parents, to your teachers, or in class, because there it's a completely anonymous platform, especially if you have an anonymous profile and you're just watching as a guest. But we do take questions even from the comments, and that's how we continue to answer even more questions, any question. So this way it's become easier for us then to pick on different topics, because somebody can be like, well, I saw this video about this particular topic and I'd like to know more about it. And this way it always making it more easy and approachable for people to ask the different questions, because it really starts from there, asking the question, and then conversation generally flows a bit easier once we're at that point.
Yeah. Now, do you have any problems with your clients with dealing, especially on the autism spectrum, with dealing with like eye contact? Like when you're trying to talk to them about sex or dating, do you tend to see their eyes kind of like drift off from looking directly at you and looking elsewhere?
Well, not, I mean, every single person is different. There are persons that have difficulty with eye contact in general, not just around the topic of sex. I haven't really noticed anybody change their behavior directly because we are talking about sex, but as I've said with most clients, I haven't worked specifically on sex. It's only a few that approach me appropriately about that. But yes, eye contact is one of the things that also is something that we work on, because, and goes back to the body language. The understanding eye contact is a huge part of being able to maintain a conversation and understand if somebody's on the same page as you conversation wise. So yes, it is something I've noticed, and it's something that I'm aware of. And normally I would ask, is this topic uncomfortable, or would you like to change the topic? But mostly we just kind of continue on with the conversation and then see when best to tackle that specific issue.
All right. Where do you see your dating program going in 3 years from now? I mean, do you see it blossoming into this huge thing, helping those out there on the spectrum?
Definitely. I mean, I'd love to see, first of all, to reach out to even more communities. For example, working with couples and working with neurotypical persons that are dating somebody on the autism spectrum disorder, for example, on the autism spectrum rather. And I also love to see it develop into a larger program. For example, we have, let's say, weekends or camps where we could bring persons together, where we could then have a larger group that is doing role plays and that is doing learning from each other, peer support. So I'd love to see this kind of program develop in Malta, even overseas. I mean, as willingness, we have communities across different countries in the world as well. So I would also like to be able to work on different platforms, be it online or be it in another country. So I do see that there is a lot that can be done in when it comes to dating. And I mean, when it comes to relationships, since every single relationship is so different, I think there's so much that can be done to be able to have persons better equipped and more emotionally intelligent to be able to deal with different relationships. So I think there's a lot that this program can go. There's a lot where it can grow.
What inspired you to create this dating program? I mean, there had to be some kind of inclination or request from those on the spectrum that you're working with that say, hey, can you help us with the dating scene?
hmm I think what inspired me the most is that, I mean, I'm very passionate about the topic of dating in general and sex education in general. So Now I feel quite equipped to work with different youth because I've been doing it for quite a long time. And we got to a point when we launched the sex clinic where we were saying, okay, now that we have these resources, what other communities can we support? And we have met along the way in different schools persons that are on the spectrum, or persons that struggle with any other kind of difficulties, being with physical disabilities, for example, because we also do consultations for persons that are have any kind of physical disabilities, for example. And we did meet people on the spectrum along the way, and I felt that this was an area that maybe there isn't enough resources on. And when I did look online, I felt like there weren't many ways that Maltese youth could reach out for support. And I thought, I have the platform, I have the service, so why not look into it myself? And that's when I started to seek out further training. I did further training to be able to be better informed myself. In my psychology training, I was already trained on this topic, but I've sought further training, and I'm working with different professionals in the team so that whenever there's any other support that is needed, it can be given. But that was the main inspiration. I mean, as a professional, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to always offer more and more services to anybody, anybody that needs it. And sometimes I think it can start off with even just one person that you say, okay, I really wanted to help this person, so why not offer it to anybody else?
Interesting. Very interesting. Can you go into a little bit more detail on your program?
Yes, sure. So it is on a one-to-one basis. So persons attend our clinic either in person. We also have an online platform which is safe and encrypted that can be accessed basically from anywhere. And in the initial meeting, I would basically get to know the person a little bit, collect some background on history, dating experience, the main goals or difficulties that the person wishes to address. So in the beginning, it would be a case of getting to know the individual a bit more to see which areas I would need to support on. And then depending on that, I would direct accordingly. So the program has different materials that I use, such as presentations and different workbooks that we use, so that we can have some visual resources, some practical resources for persons that need different kind of different tools for them to be able to learn better. A lot of the work involves role play, observation of different scenarios. So we would watch clips from different movies or series and analyze what happened there, what kind of body language was seen there, what kind of response is there. Is that a positive response, a negative response? So the first couple of sessions focus on understanding how to read the person better, be it through body language, be it through direct language, indirect language, so verbals and non-verbals. And then we would focus on conversation building. So we would practice talking about different topics that are already an interest to the person. So different hobbies that they have, different interests, and then also topics that aren't necessarily an interest to the person, so that you learn how to be able to continue a conversation even in a situation where a topic is new to you, because this is something that I've realized can be a bit difficult. Some people tell me, well, I get completely blank when I hear about a topic I know nothing about. I feel like I shut off, or I close off and I get anxious and then I'm silent. So we learn how to react to these different situations. Then we also discuss things such as, where do you go on a date? And we talk about things such as going somewhere where there's little things that trigger you. So somewhere that's familiar, somewhere where you've been before, somewhere where maybe there isn't too much noise or too much lighting, depending on what affects you. To have food that you've had before, in the case that it's food, so that you don't have too many new things happening. And this way you can focus entirely on your date. We even discuss clothing, for example. A lot of people tend to, go out and buy a whole new outfit for going on a date. And then sometimes that's not very comfortable because it's not something you've worn before, and then it's itching or it's not fitting quite the same way. So we tackle every little element of these different things. We then also practice, so introducing yourself to somebody new, getting up and shaking a hand, or offering somebody to sit down, inviting somebody to go inside, or offering to have a coffee. So there's a lot of different aspects that go into it. And then with certain individuals, they actually went on a date, came back to me, and we analyzed what happened. Was it positive? Was it negative? What did we learn from it? Are we going to go on a second date? Would this be a person that I would like to see again? So in that scenario, then we would work on, okay, so let's see how we're going to continue to communicate with this person, be it through WhatsApp, be it through Facebook, be it through whatever kind of social media platform. So that's in that situation. When it came to persons that were already in a relationship, what I normally was working on was difficulties such as understanding whether a person is angry at me or not because of the way they have received a text message, or so kind of it's a bit more complicated there, because with text messaging, things
Mm-hmm.
can be read in a
Yeah,
different way than you intend. So yes, these are just some examples of the different things that I do.
it's very interesting. I mean, you really cover a lot of bases to really help those out. I mean, especially with analyzing the date so they can figure out their next move on the next date.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you had anybody, what any of your clients that are on the spectrum talk to you about like dating outside of someone who's not autistic, like dating someone who's neurotypical?
Yes, definitely. And realistically, it works the same. So what we would be planning is the same, in the sense of understanding body language, of understanding the way that the dates work. The kind of questions that I face is, do I explain that I'm on the spectrum straight off the bat or not? And this is something that is really dependent on the person and their previous experiences and what they're comfortable with. But yes, there are persons that, especially after seeing Atypical, the series, where they were like, okay, actually, I can date somebody that's not on the spectrum. They weren't aware of that, and yes, of course, why not? So I haven't had that many clients that had the situation, but I've had this kind of request, these kind of questions. And realistically, it works the same way, because at this point, I've only worked with the individual that was on
Hmm.
the spectrum. So we're working on the same things, whether it's continuing a conversation, whether it's reading language, etc.
Have you had any issues with them coming to you and talking about how do I control my non-filter? How do I like stop myself from saying something that would either upset the person or embarrass myself?
Yes, definitely. I mean, what I normally say is this is everybody's fear. Everybody's afraid of saying something they shouldn't have said, or
Hmm.
foot in mouth kind of scenario. This happens to anybody. So we are all afraid of making a fool of ourselves on a date, or saying something out of line. And what I normally discuss with them is, what's the worst that could happen in this situation. You realize that you've made a mistake and you apologize about it, or we learn from it. Also, when we're practicing conversation, this is something that comes up there. So at what point do I stop asking about this topic? If I'm realizing the person isn't responding or is being short, then maybe they don't want to really talk about this. Or if it's something that I'm not really comfortable to comment on, then maybe I just don't, so that I avoid saying something that I don't actually mean. But yes, I mean, this is something that is a common question, a common query. The fear of saying something that I shouldn't have, and therefore fear of being rejected because of that. Um, but that comes part and parcel with dating. What I always say is that it's a matter of practice as well. I mean, we get better by going through these experiences, by learning from the mistakes we make, and this is what makes us in the end human, because we're all just experiencing the joy and the ups and the downs of dating, by experiencing even the little mistakes and the little flaws.
Yeah, I mean, have you had positive results from your clients about the program?
I think the most positive result that I would talk about is confidence.
That's
So people growing in their confidence and in their ability to say, you know what, I am going to go for this date, and I'm going to try and ask this person out. And that has been the biggest growth that I've seen from my clients, them becoming more confident in their skills, communication skills, and in their ability to say, you know, I'm going to go on this date and it's okay if it doesn't go well. Because this is the kind of the biggest hurdle to go through in the beginning, understanding that it's okay that it doesn't go well. And this is, from my experience with all kinds of clients, this is always one of the biggest hurdles. So that is one of the biggest, I would say, successes that there is, the confidence. And I think the second biggest success is somebody being able to start to realize how you can determine if a date went well or not, in terms of, okay, would I want to have another date with this person? Would this person be somebody that is worth it for me to try and build something with, or is it better to just keep this person as a friend? So since I've been seeing these persons for a couple of months, these are the main goals that we have achieved so far. And with one particular client, there was a successful date and second date. So this for me has proven to be some success, definitely.
what kind of fears have you seen with your clients when it comes to dating? Because I know
Fears?
fears, like I know when you're going into a date with those of us on the spectrum, we tend to overthink a lot. And one of the
Yeah.
big things is we get so many fears going through our mind of, is she gonna reject me? Is she gonna like me? Is she gonna like the way I look, the way I talk? Is she gonna respect the fact that I'm on the spectrum? Have you had any of those questions coming from your clients?
Yes. I mean, as we said, one of the biggest questions is, you know, am I going to say something that's offensive, or I'm going to say something that makes me misunderstood? I think the fear of being misunderstood is one of the biggest fears that I've seen from my clients, and also from what I've researched and what I've studied. Other fears were, of course, being liked in general, be it attractiveness, physical attractiveness, and personality wise as well. Is this person going to like my personality, maybe my quirkiness, or the kinds of hobbies that I have? Other fears are practical fears, in the sense of what happens if I blank out, and I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. Do I just leave? Do I tell that person, okay, listen, I need a few minutes break. Let me just go outside, maybe call somebody, and then come back. These are the kinds of main fears that I've had. I've also, I'm just thinking about it now, had a fear of basically the person was asked to pick a place where they were going to go for the date. So they were worried, really worried about which place do I choose. And we spent a lot of time saying, okay, is it best to go for a coffee date, or is it best to go for a dinner date? And if I have a dinner date, what if they think that I eat strangely? And these are the kind of scenarios that we would go through to see what would be the least triggering situation for the person.
Interesting, very interesting. Now, how do you guys out there in Malta take in those of us on the spectrum? Are they very welcoming? Are they standoffish because they don't understand it?
No, I mean, as willingness, we are all trained professionals in therapeutic counseling, psychological fields. So we are all trained to work with different persons with
Mm-hmm.
different issues. When it comes to those of us working directly with persons that have autism, for example, I mean, this is our job. So this is what we love to do. So at least I'd like to believe that we are very approachable and very welcoming. And I mean, the way that our clinic works, it's highly, highly confidential. Everything is super secure and safe. So from A to Z, everything is explained from the first phone call that you make until your very last session. Everything is very clear and transparent, which makes it easier for somebody to feel comfortable to attend any kind of therapeutic or educational sessions. And the way that it works is that when somebody is interested to become a client of willingness, they first have an intake meeting with myself or one of my colleagues, where basically we gather the history of the person, be it family history, be it the history of the problem itself. And then depending on the situation, we match with the most appropriate professional in the team. And they are matched, first of all, on profession itself. So if somebody came for career guidance, we're going to match them with a career guidance professional, but also on personality. So this is something that we take we keep in mind, and we'll give a lot of importance, because people are going to vibe differently with different professionals, as with everything else. So this is part of the process that makes it a bit more welcoming, and also very tailored to the specific client. And then when it comes to the sessions with me, because those are the ones I can talk about, they would then meet me. I would have already been prepared for the session because I have this information from beforehand. And then from there, we start our educational program. And then it's very tailored to the person. So because it's dependent completely on what the person's goal is. So I would say that overall it's a very approachable and welcoming place, be it online, in person, and yeah.
How have you dealt with? I'm pretty sure you've had your clients who are on the spectrum who are very shy. How
Yes.
did you handle that breaking of that, taking down that shyness barrier so they're more open and more receptive to everything going on? So they see there's more out there and they're more friendly towards everyone.
I think it's something that comes by time, in the sense that I like to go with what my client is comfortable with, and I push them to a level where I know that they are comfortable being pushed towards. So I do spend a lot of time building the relationship with the personal client, to see that they are at a point that they trust me enough that when I say, okay, let's practice this, or let's try this, they are open to do that. So there is a lot of work done in the first few sessions to get to know the client, and also to explain how everything works step by step, so the person knows, okay, this is what the next step is. I feel comfortable with that. No, I want to work a bit more on the stage that we are right now. And this makes it a bit easier then to start breaking shyness, because if we are approaching step by step and we are successfully achieving that step, then that person feels more comfortable to move on to the next step. So to give a practical example, if we're working on body language, if a client is very shy to try a role play, then we won't go there until they feel more comfortable to do that. And then once we try it and they see, oh, it's not that bad, then we'll go on to the next stage. So I do spend a lot of time basically understanding what the person's boundaries and limitations are, so that we can work within those boundaries and within the comfort of that person. And I found that works best. And that's why it's super personalized, because there isn't a one fit all kind of process or program. And it's very dependent on what the person wants to achieve. Shyness is something that throughout any kind of client, be it on the spectrum or not, is something that can be a difficult thing, especially if we've been brought up in a way that it's normal to be shy, or to be less comfortable talking openly about yourself and your difficulties. This is something that is very common for people to feel uncomfortable with opening up about what they're finding difficult. So it's also about normalizing the fact that it is okay to be shy, and it is okay to be uncomfortable to talk about dating, sex, and relationships, especially if it's something new. So this is kind of the mindset that I bring into the sessions, and I think that helps with the shyness.
All right. Well, anyways, it's been great talking with you, and I'm pretty sure
Likewise.
your clinic has gotten pretty high reviews. I'm guessing from the success rate you had with all your clients, and I wish you guys many many more. And
Thank you.
hopefully, you're welcome. And hopefully, when these borders open up and stuff, I plan to come visit Malta.
Yes, definitely. I'd love to have you come by and see the clinic, and also I'll show you different places around Malta. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for creating this kind of platform where we can connect across different countries and discuss these kind of topics. So yeah, well done on all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And why don't you just lastly just tell people how they can reach out to you if they ever want to contact the clinic and maybe schedule a meeting with you?
Sure. We have various methods to be contacted. The main one is via email on info@willingness.com.mt. We also have our website, www.willingness.com.mt. And then you can find us as Willingness Team on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And on TikTok, we are at Dating 101.
Well, anyways, thank you very much, Nicola. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I wish you and
Thank you.
your colleagues and the rest of your clinic very much success.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.